The ship rattled under the pressure of the asteroid field. Alarms screamed through the corridors. The crew of the Resolute worked as fast as they could, but everyone knew the truth. The Skyflower's healing power was fading. They had less than 3 hours before it would lose its effect. Commander James Hale stood at the navigation table, looking at the star map. His jaw was tight, his mind running through every possible route. The shattered belt was dangerous even for the best pilots. Huge rocks drifted in every direction, colliding and splitting apart. Energy pulses shot out without warning, shutting down advanced engines and sensors. Most ships avoided it entirely, but now there was no choice. Princess Aris lay in the medical bay, her skin pale and her breathing weak. She was unconscious, unaware of the race against time. Her attendant, Laren, stayed by her side, his eyes full of fear. He knew that without the cure, she would not survive the next few hours. Lieutenant Mara, the Resolute's chief engineer, spoke first. "We can't take the whole ship through that," she said. "If the energy pulses hit us, we'll lose all systems. We'll be trapped." Hale looked at her, then at the small one-person shuttle docked at the side of the ship. It was old, almost forgotten. Unlike the main vessel, it had very little. Advanced tech, mostly manual controls, simple thrusters, and no shield generators. The energy pulses might ignore it. "I'll take the shuttle," Hale said firmly. The room went silent. "Sir, that's suicide," Mara said sharply. "You'd have no backup. If an asteroid hits, or you get caught in a pulse, there's no one to help." Hale's voice stayed calm. "We don't have time to argue. The shuttle is fast enough, and I can fly low-tech through the field. The Skyflower needs to get to the palace in hours, not days. This is the only way." Captain Torren of the Varelian escort shook his head. "Humans, you always run toward danger. Why? Why risk your life for someone who is not your own?" Hale met his eyes. "Because life is life, and right now, I'm the one who can make sure she gets another chance." There was no more debate. Mara helped secure the Skyflower into a small protective case. It glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. Hale took it gently, as if holding something more precious than gold. Before stepping into the shuttle, he spoke to the crew over the comm system. "I don't know if I'll make it through," he said. "But that doesn't matter. What matters is that the princess lives. Keep the Resolute safe. If I fail, tell the Varelians that humanity kept its promise." The shuttle's hatch closed, and the small craft detached from the Resolute. Hale gripped the manual controls. The asteroid field loomed ahead like a wall of spinning stone and death. He guided the shuttle in, weaving between rocks the size of mountains. Without shields, he had to dodge every piece manually. The low-tech engines responded slowly, forcing him to predict the asteroid's paths before they even moved. A warning light flashed. An energy pulse had erupted nearby, a glowing wave tearing through space. It slammed into the shuttle, but the old systems only flickered for a second before stabilizing. The gamble had worked. The advanced ships would have been disabled instantly. Hale pushed forward, sweat forming on his brow. Each minute felt like an hour. He had to adjust constantly, steering around spinning debris, diving under tumbling stone, and bursting through narrow gaps. In the medical bay of the Resolute, Laren watched the tracker. The small dot representing the shuttle moved deeper into the field. "He's making progress," Laren whispered, almost in disbelief. Halfway through the belt, Hale hit the worst section. A chain reaction of collisions had filled the area with smaller, faster-moving rocks. They zipped past him in every direction. One slammed into the shuttle's side, tearing off a panel. Warning sirens screamed. He fought to keep the shuttle steady, hands tight on the controls. The hull groaned, but it held. A crack appeared in the viewport, small, but growing. He couldn't slow down now. The Skyflower case was strapped beside him. The faint glow seemed weaker than before. He thought of Princess Aris, someone he barely knew, yet who now depended entirely on him. He thought of her people's hopeless faces when they believed no one would come. And he thought of Earth, of his home, his people, and the belief that sometimes the right thing meant risking everything. Finally, after what felt like forever, the asteroids thinned. The stars beyond looked clear. Hail burst out of the belt, the shuttle shaking but still flying. The Virelian capital world appeared ahead, a shining jewel in the darkness. Its golden cities glimmered under twin suns. Hale opened a comm channel to the planetary control tower. "This is Commander James Hale, human vessel," he said, his voice hoarse. "I have the cure for Princess Aris. I'm coming in hot. Prepare your medics." The shuttle hit the atmosphere, heat flaring across the hull. The controls fought against him, but he forced the craft toward the palace landing platform. Systems failed one by one. Engines sputtered. The final thruster gave out just as the shuttle skidded onto the landing pad. Hale stumbled out, clutching the Skyflower case. Guards rushed toward him, but he waved them aside. "Take this. To her. Now," he said, barely able to stand. A healer took the case and ran inside. Hale sank to his knees, exhaustion overwhelming him. Inside the palace medical chamber, the healers worked quickly. They crushed the Skyflower's petals into a liquid and fed it to the princess. Within minutes, her breathing eased. Color returned to her cheeks. Slowly, her eyes opened. "Where am I?" she whispered. "You are safe, princess," Laren said, tears in his eyes. "The human warrior brought the cure." She blinked, confused. "Human? Warrior?" "Ours." Later, when Hale awoke in a recovery bed, he found Princess Aris standing beside him, weak but smiling. "You came for me," she said softly, when others would not. Hale shrugged lightly. "Someone had to." She shook her head. "No, you chose to. That is why it matters." In the days that followed, news of Hale's journey spread across the Virelian Empire. The story of the human who braved the shattered belt to save a life became a symbol of courage. The Emperor himself awarded Hale the title Guardian of the Stars, a rank never before given to an alien. At the center of the capital, a monument was built. It was not a statue of a warrior holding a weapon. Instead, it showed a man holding a small, glowing flower, his face calm and determined. Beneath it, the inscription read, "For life beyond his own, he gave all he had." The morning after they secured the Skyflower, the storms over Atheon seemed even more violent, as if the planet itself wanted to keep its treasure. Hale stood in the Resolute's cockpit, looking at the swirling black clouds on the horizon. The Skyflower sat inside its protective case on the console, glowing softly. Kara walked in, reading from a small data pad. "Leora says the healing power in the petals fades fast once they're picked. We've got about 22 hours before it's useless." Hale's jaw tightened. "How long to reach Virelia?" 24 hours, Kara said, grimacing. "And that's if nothing slows us down." "Which means we're already late," Hale muttered. They broke through the upper atmosphere, guiding both ships away from Atheon's violent grip. The moment they reached open space, Hale opened a comm channel to Captain Siralin aboard the Star Pital. "Captain, we need to cut our travel time," Hale said. "If we take the normal route, we won't make it in time." Siralin's silver eyes narrowed on the screen. "The only faster path is through the shattered belt. You know what lies there: unstable asteroids, drifting debris, and energy storms that disable navigation systems." "Yeah," Hale said. "And that's exactly where we're going." Siralin hesitated. "You are suggesting we pass through a graveyard of ships." Hale leaned closer to the screen. "I'm suggesting we save your princess." The shattered belt appeared ahead like a jagged wall of stone and darkness. Huge asteroids spun slowly, their surfaces marked with old impact scars. Shards of rock drifted between them, some the size of a ship, others no larger than a fist. Occasionally, arcs of blue energy leapt between the stones, flashing like silent lightning. "This is where advanced navigation dies," Brooks muttered, from engineering. "Our auto systems are gonna be blind." "Then we go manual," Hale said. "Keep the Starpetal close behind us. They'll follow our path exactly." As soon as they entered, the belt closed around them like a maze. The asteroids moved unpredictably, some colliding with deep, booming echoes. Hale gripped the controls, guiding the Resolute through narrow gaps. Sometimes they slipped past with only meters to spare. Other times, they had to fire thrusters sideways to avoid deadly collisions. The Starpetal followed, less graceful, but still on their tail. Sir Roland's voice occasionally came over the comm, sharp and tense, but he kept his ship in line with Hale's maneuvers. Halfway through, the first major problem struck. A burst of blue energy jumped between two nearby asteroids, hitting the Starpetal directly. The elegant crystal ship flickered, its lights dimming. "Starpetal's losing power," Kara shouted. Hale's mind raced. Without power, the Starpetal couldn't steer, and without steering, they'd drift straight into an asteroid. "Brooks, get our tractor beam ready," Hale ordered. Within seconds, a beam of pale light connected the Resolute to the Starpetal. The human ship's engines roared as Hale pulled the alien vessel out of the asteroid's path. "You've saved us twice now, Commander." Sir Roland's voice came over the comm, rough with emotion. "Let's make it 3 when we get your princess." "That flower," Hale replied, not taking his eyes off the rocks ahead. Hours passed inside the belt. The crew grew more exhausted with each tense maneuver. Kara checked the Skyflower's case every hour, watching the glow fade little by little. Finally, the belt began to thin. But as they neared the exit, the sensors lit up with a warning. "Radiation storm dead ahead," Brooks said. "It's coming fast." "Can we go around it?" Hale asked. Kara shook her head. "Not without adding 6 more hours to the trip. That means the flower won't make it." Hale looked at the display. The storm's radiation would fry their systems and damage the Skyflower if they weren't careful. "What if we split up?" Hale asked slowly. Everyone turned to look at him. "I take the flower in the shuttle," he continued. "It's smaller, faster, and I can maneuver through the storm quicker. You take the Resolute and the Starpetal around the long way. That way, the flower gets there in time." Kara stared at him. "You'd be flying into that storm alone. The radiation could kill you." Hale's voice was calm. "I'll take extra, shielding and keep the systems at minimum power. If I push hard enough, I can make it through before it gets too bad." Leora's voice broke the silence. "Commander, you would risk your life for someone you have never met?" Hale gave a faint smile. "If she's important to you, then she's important to me. That's all that matters." Within minutes, the shuttle was prepared. Hale personally transferred the Skyflower's case into a specially shielded container. Kara stood by the hatch, her jaw tight. "You don't have to do this," she said quietly. "Yes, I do," Hale replied. "Because if I don't, she dies. And we came all this way to stop that from happening." Brooks handed him a small communicator. "Keep this on, even if your systems go down. We'll be listening." Hale nodded, then looked at Leora. "I'll get it to her. I promise." The shuttle detached from the Resolute and shot forward, diving into the approaching radiation storm. The blue haze quickly surrounded him, the sensors flickering under the interference. Inside the shuttle, Hale kept his focus. He navigated through the drifting debris and surges of energy, each one rattling the hull. The shielding indicators dropped slowly but steadily. Every few minutes, Kara's voice came faintly through the comm. "You still with us, Commander?" "Still." "Here," Hale would reply. "Almost through." Finally, the storm began to thin, revealing the bright star of Virelia ahead. Hale's hands tightened on the controls. He pushed the engines to their limit, the shuttle vibrating under the strain. Behind him, The radiation storm closed in again, but he was already clear. The moment the capital planet filled his view, he opened a direct channel to the Varelian. Royal Medical Wing. This is Commander James Hale of the human ship Resolute. I have the cure for Princess Eris. I'm coming in hot. Clear me a landing zone. The response came instantly. Landing pad is ready, Commander. The princess is fading. Hurry! As the shuttle entered the atmosphere, Hale glanced at the Skyflower's container. The glow was weaker now, but still there. Just hold on a little longer, he murmured, not sure if he was speaking to the flower or the princess herself. Tup's city of crystal towers rose up to meet him, shining under the twin moons. For the first time, Hale wondered if he would make it back out of this alive. But that thought didn't slow him. He landed the shuttle hard, the landing struts groaning. Varelian medics rushed forward, their long robes flowing behind them. Hale grabbed the container and ran to meet them. She doesn't have much time, he said, placing the flower in their hands. The head healer bowed deeply. Then let us waste none. Hale stood on the landing pad, breathing hard as the medics carried the Skyflower inside. The storm in his mind finally quieted. The princess had a chance now, but he also knew something else. He'd taken too much. Radiation. Even with the shielding, he could feel the deep ache in his bones, the strange heat in his skin. He didn't tell anyone. Not yet. He just looked up at the night sky, knowing that somewhere beyond those stars, the Resolute was making its way home. Tomorrow the princess would wake. Tomorrow his crew would return. The morning sky above Atheon was dark, even though the planet's sun was high. Black clouds swirled endlessly, lit from within by bright flashes of lightning. The wind howled like a living thing, carrying the smell of rain and metal. Commander. Hale stood at the edge of the landing site, looking up at the drifting cliffs that floated in the sky like massive islands. They were jagged and uneven, their undersides glowing faintly from minerals that caught the storm's light. Somewhere on the highest of those cliffs, the Skyflower waited. Looks like a bad idea, Brooks muttered as he checked the tether lines. Which means it's exactly our kind of mission. Kara smirked, tightening her harness. Just try not to fall. I'm not carrying you back. The humans were wearing storm suits reinforced with metal anchors for climbing. The Varelians had lighter suits, sleek and beautiful, but Hale noticed they looked fragile compared to the humans' gear. Leora approached, holding a crystal device. This will help locate the Skyflower. It blooms only on the cliff edges that face the lightning most directly. But the higher we climb, the worse the storms will be. Hale nodded. Then we climb fast and smart. The plan was simple in theory. Use giant kite-like sails to ride the wind upward while tethered to anchor points. Humans would take the lead, securing ropes to each floating cliff so the Varelians could follow more safely. The first ascent was rough. The wind caught their sails with sudden force, yanking them into the air. Hale kept his legs braced, steering the sail to land on the lowest cliff. His boots hit the rock hard, but he kept his balance. He quickly drilled anchors into the cliff face and clipped the ropes. "Ropes are ready! Come up!" he shouted into the comm. Leora rose into view, her sail trembling in the wind. Hale grabbed her arm and pulled her safely onto the cliff. "You all right?" he asked. She nodded, though her eyes were wide. "It's like the wind is alive." "Feels that way," Hale agreed, glancing at the dark sky above. "Let's keep moving before it decides to throw us off." The higher they climbed, the wilder the storms became. The wind howled in strange tones, and lightning bolts struck the cliffs with blinding flashes. Each time the thunder cracked, Hale could feel it in his bones. On the third cliff, disaster struck. A massive bolt hit the rock near Kara, shattering part of the ledge. She slipped, her harness pulling taut as she dangled over open air. "Hale!" she yelled. Without thinking, Hale dove forward, catching her arm before the wind could swing her out into the storm. He braced his boots against the rock, gritting his teeth as the wind tried to tear them both away. "Got you!" he shouted over the roar. With Brooks's help, they pulled Kara back onto the ledge. She was breathing hard but grinning. "Guess I owe you one." Hale just shook his head. "Save it for when this is over." Leora, watching from a few steps away, felt a strange sense of awe. Virelians valued caution above all in dangerous situations, but the humans seemed to throw themselves into danger without hesitation if it meant protecting someone. By the time they reached the second highest cliff, their muscles ached and their suits were scratched from flying debris. The crystal device in Leora's hands began to beep. "We're close," she said. "The signal is strong, just one more climb." The final ascent was the hardest yet. The wind was almost too strong to control, and lightning lit the sky every few seconds. The air buzzed with static, making their hair stand on end inside their helmets. When Hale finally pulled himself onto the top cliff, he saw it. The skyflower. It grew from a crack in the rock, its petals glowing white-blue, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. Each petal was edged with silver light, and its center shimmered like liquid lightning. "It's beautiful," Leora whispered as she climbed up beside him. Hale knelt, carefully using insulated shears to cut the stem. "One flower," he said. "Enough to save the princess?" "Yes," Leora said, "if we get it back in time." Just as Hale placed the skyflower in a protective case, a low rumble shook the cliff. Not thunder, but something heavier. From the clouds above, a massive chunk of rock, another floating cliff, was drifting straight toward them. It was larger than a city block and moving fast, driven by the wind. "We need to get off this cliff now," Hale shouted. The humans quickly set the sails, but the sudden gusts pulled wildly, nearly snapping the tethers. Hale clipped Leora's line to his own harness. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Making sure you make it down," Hale said, pulling her toward the cliff's edge. They leapt together, the wind catching their sails and throwing them toward the lower cliffs. Lightning flashed so close, Hale could feel the heat through his suit. He twisted mid-air, shielding Leora from the blast. They hit the lower cliff hard, rolling across the rock. The others pulled them up just as the massive floating cliff smashed into the one above, breaking it apart in a deafening explosion of stone and lightning. Chunks of glowing rock fell into the storm below, vanishing into the swirling clouds. "That could have been us," Brooks muttered, pale. "Yeah," Hale said, catching his breath. "Let's get out of here before the sky throws anything else at us." The descent was just as dangerous, but this time the team moved faster, driven by the urgency of carrying the cure. Hale kept a tight grip on the case, even when the wind threatened to rip it from his hands. When they finally landed near the ships, the Virelian crew rushed forward, staring at the glowing flower in awe. "You found it," Captain Saralan said, voice thick with relief. "The princess may yet live." Leora looked at Hale. "Without you, we would never have reached it." Hale shook his head. "We're not done yet. That flower's no good if it doesn't get to her in time." That night, as the storm raged above, Hale sat outside the Resolute checking the skyflower's protective case. Leora joined him, sitting, quietly for a moment before speaking. "I think I understand your people a little better now," she said. "How's that?" Hale asked. "You act without hesitation. You put yourself between danger and others, even when you don't have to. It's strange to me, but also admirable." Hale smiled faintly. "We just figure if someone's got to take the hit, better it be us than someone who can't handle it." Leora looked at him for a long moment, her silver eyes reflecting the glow of the skyflower. "Then I hope the galaxy never forgets this day." Far above, lightning split the sky in two, as if marking the end of one battle and the beginning of the next. Tomorrow, they would leave Atheon. Tomorrow, they would race against time. The Resolute dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the shining blue-white star of Virelia's home system. The moment they arrived, the difference between human and Virelian ships was clear. The Virelian escort craft hovered ahead of them like a piece of art come to life. Its hull was made of smooth crystal plates that shimmered like water in sunlight. Thin golden wings extended from the sides, glowing faintly with some kind of energy field. It was elegant, perfectly balanced, and, in Hale's opinion, completely unsuited for a dangerous mission. On the human bridge, Kara whistled softly. "Looks like something out of a fairy tale." "Yeah," Brooks muttered from the engineering console. "And about as sturdy as one." The comms crackled to life. A calm, refined voice spoke. "Human vessel Resolute, this is Captain Siralin of the Royal Escort Star Petal. We welcome your assistance." Hale pressed the transmit button. "Glad to be here, Captain. Let's hope we both make it back." There was a pause, as if Siralin was unsure how to respond to such a blunt statement. Then, "Your reputation for resilience is noted, Commander. We have Princess Aris's personal attendant aboard. They will explain the urgency of our mission." A few hours later, the two ships were flying side by side. Hale and Kara met the Virelians in the Resolute's docking bay. The Virelian captain, Siralin, was tall and willowy, with light blue skin and eyes like polished silver. Beside him stood the princess's attendant, a young Virelian named Leora. She had pale lavender skin and long hair tied in an intricate braid that shimmered faintly under the bay lights. She carried herself with dignity, but her eyes showed exhaustion. "Commander Hale," she said, bowing slightly, "on behalf of Queen Lysira and Princess Aris, I thank you for answering our call." Hale nodded. "We'll do everything we can to get that flower." Leora's gaze flickered over the Resolute. Her expression was polite, but Hale could see doubt in her eyes. "Your ship is different from ours. Functional. Compact." "That's a polite way to say ugly," Kara said under her breath. Hale smirked. "We build for function first. Pretty comes later, if at all." Leora tilted her head. "And you believe this function will survive Athion's storms?" Hale met her eyes, evenly. "We've survived worse. The two ships set a course for Athion, a planet orbiting deep in the storm sector. The journey would take them through unpredictable space, regions of shifting gravity, rogue asteroids, and energy fields that scrambled navigational systems. In the Resolute's mess hall, the human crew and their Virelian guests shared a meal. The humans offered ration packs, while the Virelians brought delicate crystal flasks of a glowing drink that smelled faintly of mint and rain. Brooks eyed the drink suspiciously. "What's in this?" Leora smiled faintly. "Starlight nectar. It calms the mind." Brooks sipped it and blinked. "Tastes like a cold breeze. Weird, but good." During the meal, Hale asked about Athion. Leora explained, "The skyflower blooms only once every cycle under constant lightning. Its petals hold the light of the storms, which can reignite a fading life. But the cliffs it grows on drift in the sky, carried by winds strong enough to shatter a hull." Brooks let out a low whistle. "So, floating cliffs, endless lightning, and winds that can throw rocks the size of ships. Sounds lovely." "It is not a place for beauty," Leora said softly. "It is a place of survival." The first sign of trouble came in the third day of travel. The Resolute's sensors picked up strange readings, massive gravitational fluctuations ahead. Kara adjusted their course, but the space around them began to shimmer as if the stars themselves were bending. "Grav eddies," Hale muttered. "Hang on." The star petal swayed dangerously. Its captain's voice came over the comm, tight with tension. "We are struggling to maintain stability. Our compensators are failing. Your systems run on autobalance, right? Hale asked quickly. Yes, turn them off and fly manual. Trust your pilot. There was a pause. Then, manual flight is outdated. Maybe, Hale said, gripping the controls. But it works when the fancy stuff doesn't. Hale's hands moved quickly, guiding the Resolute through the chaotic pull of the eddies. Without relying on autocorrection, he could feel the subtle shifts in gravity and adjust before the ship was dragged off course. After a tense 20 minutes, both ships cleared the eddies. On the comm, Siralin sounded almost surprised. Your methods are unconventional, Commander, but effective. Hale grinned. Welcome to human problem-solving. They continued toward the storm sector. The deeper they went, the stranger space became. They passed a rogue planet with oceans glowing bright green in the darkness. They skirted a star that hummed with a sound so deep it could be felt in their bones. Even Leora, who had traveled far in the Empire, admitted she had never seen such strange beauty. But as they neared Atheon, beauty gave way to danger. Lightning storms raged in the upper atmosphere visible from orbit. Gigantic black clouds spun in constant motion, and flashes of white-blue electricity lit up the darkness every few seconds. Kara whistled from the bridge. Looks like the planet's trying to scare us off. Too bad for it, Hale said, eyes fixed on the swirling storms. We're not that easy to scare. The Star Petal attempted an initial descent, but within minutes, their delicate wings caught turbulent winds. The ship was thrown sideways, alarms blaring. Pull up, Hale ordered over the comm. You'll tear yourself apart in that wind. We cannot maintain control. Siralin's voice was sharp with fear. Hale turned to Kara. We'll guide them down. Lock our tractor beams on them and match their fall. The maneuver was risky. The Resolute's beams strained against the violent push of the atmosphere, but the human ship's reinforced hull and brute force thrusters held steady. Inch by inch, they guided the Starpetal to a calmer air pocket near the planet's surface. When they finally landed, the Starpetal's crew was shaken, but unharmed. Leora stepped onto the surface and looked around. So this is Atheon. It feels alive. It did. The air buzzed faintly, as if charged with constant electricity. The ground trembled beneath the force of distant thunder, and above them, far in the shifting clouds, Hale could see the faint outlines of massive cliffs drifting in the sky. Somewhere up there, the Skyflower waited. That night, they camped near the ships to prepare for the climb the next day. The humans set up simple, sturdy tents, while the Varelians assembled delicate crystal shelters that shimmered in the dark. Leora walked over to where Hale was checking equipment. Commander, she began slowly, earlier today, you saved the Star Petal. Without your intervention, we might have been lost. Hale shrugged. You'd have done the same for us. She studied him for a long moment. Perhaps, but your people. You act quickly, without hesitation, even when the odds are poor. That's just how we are, Hale said with a faint smile. We've learned that sometimes the best plan is to act, then figure out the details on the way. Leora didn't seem sure whether to call that wisdom or madness, but as she looked toward the drifting cliffs above, she felt a flicker of hope for the first time since the princess had fallen ill. Tomorrow, they would climb into the sky. Tomorrow, they would face the storms. The twin moons of Virelia hung high above the royal city, casting their pale silver light over shining crystal towers. Normally, the night would be filled with music from the gardens and laughter from the streets. But tonight, the city was silent. No one celebrated. No one sang. Inside the great palace, the alien princess, Aris Varelian, lay on a wide bed of woven starlight silk. Her skin, usually glowing with a soft lavender hue, was now pale and dull. Her long silver hair, which once shimmered like falling water, had lost its shine. The faint rise and fall of her chest was the only sign that she still breathed. Her mother, Queen Lysira, stood beside her, holding Aris's hand with trembling fingers. The queen's tall, elegant frame seemed smaller tonight. Even her bright, golden eyes, a symbol of strength for the Varelian people, were dim. "The healers say there is nothing more they can do," whispered the queen's advisor, an elderly alien named Turvin. His voice cracked like old paper. "We have tried every medicine in the Empire, every healing crystal, every song of recovery. Nothing works." The queen closed her eyes for a moment. "What is the sickness called again?" she asked, though she already knew. Turvin lowered his head. "The starlight fading. It comes once every 1,000 cycles. The body's inner light fades until nothing remains." Queen Lysira's voice was steady, but her hand shook. "There must be a cure." "There is," Turvin admitted, "but it lies on a world beyond our reach, a planet wrapped in endless storms. The sky flower grows there, and only its petals can restore the fading light. But no Varelian ship has ever returned from that world." The queen turned to the large window. Outside, the stars sparkled across the black sky, distant and cold. "Then we must ask for help," she said. "Across the galaxy, deep in human space, the exploration vessel." Resolute drifted quietly between the stars. Inside, Commander James Hale was reviewing star charts in the control room. Hale was tall and broad-shouldered, with short brown hair and a face that looked like it had seen too much sun. His uniform was simple, no golden decorations, no heavy medals, just a dark jacket with a single patch of the Earth flag on his shoulder. The Resolute wasn't a warship. It was an old exploration craft, patched together with human ingenuity and a bit of stubbornness. Its crew of 20 was made of explorers, scientists, and a few ex-military officers who liked trouble more than comfort. Suddenly, the communications console beeped sharply. Ensign Kara Patel spun her chair around and frowned. "Commander, we've got an open distress transmission. It's on a galactic emergency channel." Hale leaned forward. "Let's hear it." A voice, smooth and melodic yet heavy with sorrow, filled the room. It spoke in galactic standard, the common language between species. "This is the Royal Court of Varelia," the voice said. "We seek aid from any who will hear us. Our princess, Aris Varelian, is dying. The cure exists on the storm world of Atheon. We cannot reach it. Any who can retrieve the sky flower will be rewarded beyond measure. But more than reward, your name will be written in the stars for saving a life most precious to us." The transmission ended, leaving the control room in silence. Kara raised an eyebrow. "Atheon? That's in the storm sector. Ships get torn apart there." "Yeah," Hale said, scratching his jaw, "which is why no one else is answering." "You're not thinking of—" she began. "I am," Hale interrupted. "Plata—" "Course." Kara looked at him like he'd lost his mind. "Commander, we're an exploration vessel, not a rescue fleet, and they probably have faster, better-equipped ships on the way." "Maybe," Hale said. "Or maybe they don't. I've read about the Varelians. They're brilliant scientists, but their ships are built for beauty, not brute force. That storm planet will chew them up." "Why risk it?" Kara asked quietly. Hale's eyes didn't leave the star map. "Because someone has to, and humans don't sit around waiting for someone else to step up." In the palace, the Queen's court gathered to review the responses to their distress call. Dozens of messages had arrived, but each one was a refusal. Too far. Too dangerous. Too costly. Some messages were polite, others were blunt, none were hopeful. Turvin shuffled through the last few responses. "This is the final one," he said. "It's from humans." Several courtiers exchanged doubtful looks. The Varelians had only known humans for a short time in galactic history. They were considered strange newcomers, physically weaker than many species, shorter-lived and still learning the finer points of diplomacy. Turvin read, aloud. This is Commander James Hale of the human vessel Resolute. We accept your request. Send the coordinates, and we'll head out immediately. The Queen's eyes widened slightly. They accept? Without condition? Yes, Majesty, Turvin said. But humans? They are not, how shall I say, built for such storms. The Queen looked down at her daughter, pale and still. Then she looked back at Turvin. At this moment, I care not for the shape of their bones or the color of their skin. I care only that they are willing. Back on the Resolute, Hale gathered, his crew in the common room. The room was small, with walls covered in old mission patches, photos, and the smell of recycled air. All right, here's the deal, Hale began. We've got a sick princess on Varelia, the cure's on Atheon. That planet is a death trap, storms, lightning, floating rock cliffs, the works. We'll be escorting a Varelian ship there, but make no mistake, it'll be us doing the heavy lifting. A few crew members exchanged looks. One, a wiry mechanic named Brooks, raised a hand. So, we're risking our lives for someone we've never met? Hale didn't hesitate. Yeah. Why? Brooks asked. Hale looked at each of them in turn. Because one day, it might be us calling for help. And when that day comes, I'd like to think someone out there will answer. The room went quiet. Then Kara smirked. Well, when you put it that way, good, Hale said. We leave in 30 minutes. Check your gear. Make sure your suits are storm-rated. And bring your stubbornness. We're gonna need it. Hours. Later, the Resolute left human space, its old engines humming steadily. Hale stood at the viewport, watching the stars streak by. Somewhere ahead, beyond storms and danger, was a princess he'd never met, and a flower that could save her. He didn't know what waited for them on Atheon. He didn't know if they'd make it back. But he knew one thing for certain. Humans weren't the type to ignore a cry for help.